Hey folks, well, I got the Jeep in the garage today. It's pretty chilly out, but got a fire going, so it's nice and toasty in here. But what I'm working on today, there's a couple things I'm hoping to do this weekend, but the important thing, you can see I already got the belt off and the pulley off because I want to replace this water pump. Now the water pump's okay, but it's hard to see. Maybe if I use my light, maybe you can see all that red orange crap in there. It's because the water pump gasket has been, it's my guess, it's been leaking. I don't know if you can see down by the harmonic balancer pulley as well, that there's a drip down there. Now it's been constantly losing coolant. You can usually see it's down a little bit, but you can usually see a little bit of steam coming when you park it. So the gasket's leaking, and these things are notorious for having leaky gaskets. So figured I was going to replace the gasket, but in the same sense I figured, you know what, since I'm got to replace the gasket anyway, here it is right here, I might as well just replace the whole water pump assembly, because I got to pull the water pump off anyway. It's a pretty easy task. You can see from the, well, it's easier to show you on here. There's only 7 bolts. Now the only thing that scares me is I've heard of guys busting these bolts off because it's a steel bolt into an aluminum block. But I'm hoping that won't happen. Probably give them a good rap with a hammer before I try to break them loose. And all the bolts are pretty easy to get to, except there's one in behind the tensioner pulley a little bit, but yeah, it shouldn't be too bad. So I've got a pan down there. I didn't bother draining the coolant or anything because why drain it all? You can just pull the water pump off and some of the coolant's going to come out of there obviously, and then I'll just top her back up because the coolant's okay. So let me see if I can get the camera set up here in a position that you can see while I work on pulling these bolts out. Alright, I kind of got you teetered on there on the edge of the engine, so hopefully you'll stay. Got my ratchet here, and it's a 10mm. That's kind of surprising. Here, let's see if I can get this light in a better position here. See if it'll make it easier for you to see. Drop her back somehow. I can see just fine. The lighting's more for you guys. Come on. If I do it from the top down. There, that's pretty good, eh? The moment of truth. Let's see if some of these are gonna work. Oh, now I gave each of them a little bit of a wrap with a hammer. Oh, that one was easy enough. That one's feeling a little bit. I don't want to torque on them too much because being that these are fairly small bolts, so if my hand gets in the way, it won't take much to snap them off. Well, so far so good on these. Sorry I moved you. I'm getting lucky so far. Just that one giving me grief so far. This guy right there, this one you can't see it, but it's right now you can see it right there. So I'm just gonna, sometimes that'll bust it loose. To get the steel bolt into aluminum is bad, and now I'm thinking I don't have any anti-seize to put back on here, so I might have to run into town, have to suspend this video, run to town and get some. I used to have some anti-seize, but I'm not sure if I have any left. So now I'm just going to have to get a 10mm wrench to get that last bolt off. This last guy might be the tricky one. You know what? I can probably get that with an extension and a socket. Because the socket will... Oh yeah. Let me grab an extension. this water pump is a heck of a lot easier than replacing the truck, because the truck I had to pull the fan and the shroud and the rad and everything. This, being that it's an electric fan, it's a piece of cake. So what I'm going to do now, let's be smart about this. Maybe. Handy little Makita driver, and let's just, not going to be enough room that way. Let's get a short socket instead. Bear with me. Alright. I could wait till tomorrow to run to town, but I'd rather get this done and out of here because I want to work on the my son's sled. So let's see how much. Yeah, you can see some corrosion on that one, eh? Probably run a tap, clean the threads out, but I mean, there's not much you can do. It's not like you can use aluminum bolts. Sorry, I know my hands are in the way, but can't use aluminum bolts, then they'd seize up. So use aluminum engine blocks to save weight, but you have to use steel fasteners now. Don't know if the factory uses anti-seize or not, but there you can hear pouring out on the bottom. Give her a little crack. Shouldn't take much. It should fall right off. There you go. See, not a whole heck of a lot of coolant. And don't worry, I got a tray under there, so it's not pouring onto the floor. And as well, I have a extra water pump now. Keep her as a spare. Let's see how much leaks out of here. Probably going to be a fair bit, but starting to slow down now. Pretty steamy. Jeep was a little bit warm, but yeah, that was a piece of cake. So I'll just have to clean off that gasket. Kind of hard to tell, but yeah, you can see it looks like there was a bit of a leak there. So, like I said, I'm going to run into town and get some anti-seize, and then we'll get this bad boy back together. So I'll be back in a bit. Well, I'm back sooner than expected. I didn't have to run to town. I had a brainwave and realized I think I know where my anti-seize is, so I found it. So I'm gonna have to clean that up. Just clean that gasket surface up, and we'll get her back together. So let me get you back mounted up, and then I'll get that cleaned up. You don't need to see that process, and then we'll mount the new unit up, and she'll be good to go. Then the next project while it's in here is to take care of these lame frickin' hinges. Chrysler, you can see this sticking out. That's supposed to be a bushing, but it's no longer a bushing, so I'll show you in another video. I've got a solution for that. Never had these doors off, so it'll be interesting. I digress. Let's get you mounted up and get this water pump done. Alright, well, I got her all cleaned up, and I could see a remnant, or I could see there was like a little bit of a rough spot where definitely was leaking by the gasket on the bottom side. So it left a little bit of a roughness on the aluminum. I got it cleaned up as best as I could, but I'm a little concerned it's going to leak again. So even though they are not necessarily supposed to, I'm going to use some of this, and I'm going to put a bit on the water pump, stick the gasket on with a couple bolts, holding it in place, and then I will put just a little bit along there. The rough spot was right in this area, so I don't know. They say don't need to use it, but I'm going to use it anyway, just to be safe, because I don't want to be redoing this again. And these engines are notorious for leaks. And the one thing you gotta make sure though is that don't use too much of the gasket material. and also it needs time to cure. So the Jeep's going to be in the garage all night, because I'm going to be working on those door hinges as well. And I got a good fire going. I don't know if you can hear the fan going in the background, but I got a good fire going. So it's even though it's like minus 20 Celsius outside, it's well, the fire was out, but it's gone down. It's like 10 degrees in here, and now that the fire's going, it'll probably get back up to like 15 anyway. So that'll give enough heat for this stuff to dry. I'm just putting the gasket on off camera, so I don't have to move the camera out of the engine bay so you can see. Gasket stuff's a little bit thick, even though it was in the house. I'm just smoothing it a little bit out with my finger all the way around. Another thing, you don't want this stuff, you don't want to be impatient. Start the vehicle, and because if this stuff gets into your water pump, it could get into the bearings and do some damage. So I'll show you. Here's what I've done so far. You can see it's sealed all the way around. So now I'll stick the gasket on. The gasket index is on where the impeller is, so stick it on. In theory, the gasket's a little bit warped, I guess you could say, but stuff dries relatively slow. So I'm going to do the same thing in here. I can kind of see. Just going to put a little bit. Arm's probably in the way, but you'll see the final result. Fortunately, I'm more worried about getting this job done properly, as opposed to making a super good video. But I do my best. I'm no videographer. I don't try to make a living on doing this. So now I know there's a bit of coolant on there, so you can see I'm not trying to run a bead. I'm just kind of sticking it on there a little bit, and we'll smooth it out just enough to hopefully deal with the rough spot, and the aluminum, it'll help the gasket hopefully seal in. There. Clean this off, and we'll bolt her back up. Now I wire wheeled all the bolts, got the corrosion off, and I also ran a bolt into each, a clean bolt into each hole in order to make sure the threads are all cleaned out. Alright. Again, sorry if my arm's in the way. Like so. Easy peasy. Was easy peasy. Smooth move. Luckily it didn't fall into the... thought it would stay there, but... say, live and learn. I'm no mechanic, so... hold that on there, and I'm just gonna run a couple bolts in without anti-seize, just so the thing doesn't fall off. Get that gasket in there good, just to get it all indexed. And then I will put anti-seize on them all and snug them up. Now I'm not sure what the torque spec is. Being the size of these bolts, it's not going to be very high, and you don't want to have to crank them down. It's not like wheel nuts or anything. So, all right, got my anti-seize. Put some on. I don't know if I can do this in the camera. Just got slathered on the threads. I really got lucky. These bolts came out surprisingly easy. This just prevents the corrosion. Well, it's not really corrosion as such. It's from two dissimilar metals. When they touch each other, there's like a chemical reaction. So they're hand tight. Probably will grab my torque wrench and tighten them up. I think it only needs to be about 10 to 12 foot-pounds. Probably might be able to find it online, but say it doesn't have to be super tight. Just enough. Usually when you over tighten stuff like this, when there's gaskets, you can cause a leak from over tightening, believe it or not, because it distorts the whatever you're bolting on. So I'm just gonna run that on. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna use this to tighten it. It's just to get it started. I'll throw anti-seize on the rest of these and then tighten her all up. I'm gonna have to take Jeep to the car wash. It's gonna smell like antifreeze for a while because of all the antifreeze that poured down the bottom. So give the engine a bit of a wash. There. This guy. You'll kind of tighten them in a crisscross pattern, just like you would a wheel, just so it pulls things down nice and even. Being that this is aluminum, it will distort pretty easy. So I'll get these all tightened on, and then I'll show you putting on that pulley, and then that'll be it. Alright, I got her all tightened down. I just have to mount this pulley up. Now you're going to see something here. It's like, how am I going to tighten these bolts up without having this thing spin? It's not as hard to tighten as it will be to loosen, but I'll show you a little tool, cheap tool and a trick. I'll show you the problem you might have. Put your ratchet on there to tighten it. Come on. And it's just going to turn on you, right? Unless you get it lined up maybe right at the bottom. And pull straight down. But even then it's tough. So what you need to get in this situation is one of these strap wrenches. This is just an El Cheapo one, can't remember where I bought it. Wrap it around your pulley. Get her tightened up. Then turn it around, take it off, put it the right way around. Did the same thing when I was trying to loosen them. And then what it'll do is we can just wedge it. I'll tighten her up a little more. You could use any sort of thing to get the same effect as this. So now, when I go to tighten it, I'm going to start turning and see. It's going to call me a liar. There. Just like so. It's slipping a bit, but like so. And last one. Come on. It's not hard to do this and have the video camera there, so I don't know if you can see or not, but there. Snug, good and tight. There you have it. Water pump is finished. Now the only other thing is to put the belt back on, and of course I didn't pay attention to the way it came off. And this vehicle doesn't have a diagram, but it shouldn't be too hard to figure out. all I have to do, because I know it goes around the bottom. Goes around the bottom of the you can tell based on if the thing has ribs or if it's smooth. My arm's in the way, I know, sorry folks, but it goes around the bottom and around the outside of the power steering. Like that. I know you can't quite see it all, but I'll pull you off the engine and show you. It's being a pain in the backside. Serpentine belts are great, except they can be finicky. Like so. Like so. Now you can kind of get a bit of an idea. But of course, that's not going to work because I forgot the alternator. Duh. Thought something was wrong. Alright, so it's got to go up over the alternator, under this idler pulley, like so. Interesting. I'm missing something. Well, let me, I'll figure this out and I'll show you how it's supposed to be routed. Alright, took me a minute, but I got her on. So there you have it. Zigzags quite a ways through. That's the tensioner. And so on, that's the AC pump, idler pulley, alternator, power steering, and the water pump we just replaced. So she's all good. So that finishes up the water pump install. Now I'm going to get work on the doors. So stay tuned for that video coming up next. Take care and talk to you later.